Recording. So welcome everyone. Thank you for making the time and effort to be on this morning. What I wanted to show people was how we've set up the Regrarians Workplace. The Workplace app came to our attention about a month before we kicked off with the Rex. I was overseas and actually, no, longer than that. It was actually last year when it first kicked on, which I think was in October, November, and we were overseas. And I got a message up, like a notification on the Regrarians Facebook page from Facebook, and I clicked on it, and because it said, "Oh, you have a business, you should try this," blah blah blah. So I thought, "Oh, well, I'll have a go at that," and it went nowhere. And it kept doing that until we were we were back here, and I'd started the Rex that we're currently in the middle of, and then it worked this time. So we went in there and had a look and went, "Oh, okay, this ticks a lot of boxes." And so with that, through the time that we've been working on the Rex, I've been using it and sort of doing beta testing with it. And before I got to the point where I went, okay, this is something that actually we can work with and work with for some time. So including so the way we look at it is we look at the Regrarians Workplace, as we now call it, as the space that allows us to meet the bridge between our relationships that we have with our associates, with our clients, and with participants of our programs. And in the past, we've used the Regrarians network page. Gee, this is going slow this morning. Here we are, which is, anybody on this call this morning is either a member of that Regrarians network secret group on Facebook, or has done or is doing the current Rex online farm planning program with us. And what we had is we had a conversation a while ago on the Regrarians network about us having a setup to do using a forum, old style internet forum, to manage and our conversations a lot more in keeping with the various topics that we work with. So the issue with Facebook per se, as these groups are, is that the groups, whenever you want to find something, you have to tag everything. And so what you have is this rolling, quite dynamic, which is great, conversation, but nothing is actually put in its category. And so when I show you the way that Workplace is organized, you'll see that there's a superiority, especially for us, and the way that we manage our conversations. There's a superiority over using the more open Facebook platform. So anyway, let's have a look at the differences. But the first thing that will happen, just so some of you will not have signed up yet, but the first thing that will happen is that you'll get an email, because what I do, what I have at my end is the possibility, as the owner of this, as such, to send people or to add people, and all I have to do is just go add, put their full name in there and their address. Now, just on this point, while I think of it, there's been a number of people who are one of the few things. One is, it seems like Workplace is kind of picky about emails. We're using it perhaps not as it was designed to do, which is not atypical for us, that's for sure. But some emails it just won't accept. So it will generally accept a Gmail or a Yahoo or a Hotmail, as we've seen. But sometimes when we've used people's business email address, so for example, a regrarians.org, info at or admin at, and then your own URL, it's not accepted it for some reason, which is a real pain. And I think Jesse and a few other people who might be on this call now, Jesse's not here this morning, he suffered that. So it took us about 3 goes. So I know it's a bit of a pain and maybe a bit of a side thing, but just use a Gmail address if you've got one, perhaps, and away we'll go. Especially, and the other thing is too, if this is again crazy, Facebook assumes that, or Facebook Workplace assumes that everyone works for just one company, because that's what this is designed for. It's basically a Facebook-based intranet, and Facebook has decided that if you have already registered with another company, then you can't be registered here. So a way around that is, again, to set up a Gmail account or something that you never use again, and away you go. So I've done that in order to be able to do this. So I've registered my own Gmail. Well, I did this ages ago. It's one of those Gmails that you register to protect yourself as much as anything else and your own identity. So I've got this Darren John Doherty at gmail.com account, which is just sort of sitting there lying languid. So with that, I've added that to here, and I've clicked it and added. And then what I've done, then what happens is I've got this email in my intro. So let's just have a look at what that looks like. So you can see here you've got this exclusive invitation, blah, blah, blah. And so all you have to do now is join. So I'm going to do this way because I want to use the browser over here. This is a Chrome browser and this is in Safari. So I'm just going to use the hot link here. Crikey. And just apply that. Okay, let's see where this takes us. All right, so now we have to create an account. So I've got my name. Now I've just got to create a password to enter in. And oh yeah, it doesn't like the password because I didn't put caps and it wasn't long enough. So I'll just try that again. Oh, yeah, a bit too long. Work that time. Save the password. All right, so now we're in, and now it's your job to just spend a little bit of time joining the groups. Now, they're not, most of them are listed here. What I advise people to do is to spend a bit of time in joining these groups, and we'll talk a bit further about the groups in a moment. So groups, just like in normal Facebook, normal Facebook has, many of you will have been involved with Facebook before. You've got all sorts of different groups and all sorts of things. Well, what we've done here is we've created all of these different groups to accommodate a few different objectives. Because what we're trying to do here with this workplace is try and have it so that we get the benefits of the interface, taggability, notification ability, etc., and the usability of Facebook with the organisation of a forum. And so we've been looking to try and find something that does that for a long time, and this ticks that box for the time being. So what I've done is I've spent a bit of time to organise all of the different groups to ostensibly be the different forum topics. So you've got the Rex 10 week number one, the 10-week number one. That's for all of the people who've been involved in the July to September program that we've got running at the moment. So that's only for people who are on that program or for the members of the Regrarians team who are supporting that program. So if you're on the normal Regrarians network and you're neither of those people, well, then that's not one that you would join. Regrarians Places, this is for you to introduce yourself and your place and project. It's completely optional, but it'd be nice if people did just sort of say, well, hey, this is me, and here's some photos or maps of my place, and get a bit of chat happening there, just as a sort of an intro. Then we've got our Regrarians Platform headings, and here I think that everyone should join these because it just makes it easier if you do it from the outset. It's not that it's hard later, but it just as part of setting yourself up. Just do that and get yourself joined into all of those, because that means then you will get notifications, which again is something to set up. You will get notifications about any posts that go into those. They'll come up through your feed and whatnot. So, but all of those conversations will now be partitioned into those groups as opposed to them being sort of all over the shop. It'll just mean that we can theme our conversations about into these various layers, which I think most of us would recognise has a lot of benefit to us. Then, and this is where it's a little, in terms of the order, I have no control over how all of this is ordered in this layout here, but you'll see here that if you are a member of, if you are a member of the Regrarians team or have done the online Rex, 10-week Rex, then these R10 prefixed groups are for each week of the program. So they are to effectively, because we're going to be transitioning, just give people a bit of an idea. So they're going to replace from our Slack application that we're using in the 10-week program. They're going to replace all of these week 1 to week 10 groups here, or layers here, channels. Sorry, that's the one. As will these Regrarians Platform items here replace the channels that are in here. So that's more or less what we've got there. Okay. So as we transition from this, we'll keep this open, but we'll be encouraging people not to use it anymore, because I think most of us agree that we've sort of got platform fatigue. And so if we can consolidate, which is part of our constant pathway, is to try and consolidate, and so that we're not so distracted on all of the different platforms and just try and find a home that works for us, then life will be just that little bit easier in this digital period. So join all of those. I'm not going to, because I'm not going to use this name, this faux profile that I've developed. But anyway, so I'll join that. So we'll go to, but what I'll just click on one. So I've joined that group. Join group. Yep, I'm joined. Yeehaw. Righto. So go to Workplace. So here I am. I'm in here. Now, as one should always do, just get yourself familiar with the format of things. You'll see that if I just go to my own personal profile, and I'll go to the news feed. So I'll just go over here, because that kind of looks like something similar, right? So here you've got, goodness me, that's slow today. Here you've got the original Facebook interface, and what you'll notice is that the interface is very similar. in fact, almost identical. And that's helpful because for most of us, and I'd say most of us on this call have used Facebook or are using it actively. You won't have any trouble migrating to using this as well. So what you'll see is down the side here, you have your profile, choices about your feed, what groups you're involved with, etc. And then over here, you've got more or less the same, except here you've got chat. Now so the news feed, you can choose for the top stories or the most recent. You've got the work chat. Work chat is Messenger. You've got the groups that you're involved with. So at the moment, I'm only in 2 groups. So by default, you get joined onto. I think there's a couple of groups that you get joined into by default. Yeah, Workplace, which is the home page, as it were. So a lot of people said during the Rex that we're running at the moment, well, where's home for us? We need a home, so that it's sort of like this, because when you're running something like an online program or in fact an enterprise, you sort of want a hub. And so the Regrarians Workplace group is that hub. So everyone gets joined into that, and then for our more targeted conversations, they go off into all of the other groups that are available. You also get added into workplace tips automatically, and you can just go in there, and that helps you to understand how to use this a bit better. I probably should go there a bit more often. And the Regrarians Places, which I joined, right? So when we logged in. So I'll just go back to home again. And you can create events just like you can in Facebook. You can create your own groups. If you do create a group, you can sort of subordinate what kind of group they are. So let's say we've got a team or project. We'll put the name that it will be. Let's just put home and next. And what we'll do now is you'll add whoever you want to be on there. So I'll just add me, right? And then I can add as many people as I like, and then I can write the first post, right? Well, you won't worry about that. And then I can go, just like in any group that you might form, I can then come over here to the group, or manage the group. So leave page. And there's not much to play with there, unless you want to play with these sorts of things. But go to edit group settings, and in here you can change the type of group, you can add to the description, you can customize the address, which means that you can then, it will create a URL, so it'll be groups / whatever you put, provided that hasn't been used before. And then you can send that directly to people, as I've done on a couple of occasions to people in Slack. And then you can change the group settings. So you can have open, so anyone can see that, and it'll come up in could come up in everyone's feeds. Or anyone can, a closed one, anyone can find the group and see who's in it. And then you've got the secret. We already have a few secret groups that we've established within our Regrarians Workplace already, and we're starting to use them for private business discussions that we're having, and so on. So if you've got a project or whatever, then feel free to use this space to set things up, if that's at all helpful to you. But otherwise, if you've got some sort of group that you think would be useful, then by all means, if that's helpful, then go for it. All right, so, and if you want to stop the group, well, then the best way to do that is, unfortunately, this is something you will need to consider, is you just click remove from group. And you just have to just leave the group, and by default, and this is the same with Facebook groups, if you're the last member of a group, it by default now deletes the group. So I'll leave and delete. So that's gone. All right, so it's done. All right, so we'll go back home. Okay, now otherwise you can set up events. I've not done anything with this yet, but I imagine that that's a very similar process to what you have in the normal Facebook. But remember, this is not to the public. This is only the material in here you have to log into. You can't see anything from the outside. And you will not be distracted by, like, if this is on your desktop and you don't have Facebook open or any other apps open at the time, then you won't be distracted by all of the noise of those. That's one of the reasons why we were pretty happy with this, is that, sure, you won't be able to tag posts, or not, shouldn't say post, but you won't be able to tag people who are outside of this workplace. But you will be able, and you won't be able to have it so that people, how can I say, you won't be able to tag other enterprises and stuff like that. But you can put in URLs and all of that sort of thing. So there's no dramas there. The organisation chart, this is a hierarchical chart, which I've not done any work on because I've got to add my own manager, and it's sort of like, okay, well, where do I put myself? I'll add myself to myself. So that's all a bit ridiculous, but it just shows you the original intent of this particular platform. It seems Blake has been busy while he's listening. Thank you, Blake. Great to see Jimmy. And Jimmy is actually, Jaime. Jaime's in this group. So that's one of the great things about this, is that, as we go through the build, just like what we have with the Regrarians Facebook network there, base network, all of those who are part of our, who've been part of our programs and whatnot, will get access to some of these great professionals in the field, such as Jimmy and others. So that'll be really helpful to you, and that'll hopefully develop some business liaisons and promising futures. So so you can see there, that's no different. You can just upload your URL and away you go. So thanks for testing that live for me there, Blake. Good work. Otherwise, what else did we have that I needed to show you? Just see if there's any questions to date. Audio is a bit dodgy. Oh, okay now. This one's, thank you, John Owens. Are the conversations from Slack able to be transferred over? There are so many valuable conversations in Slack that would be good to have available in at least a searchable form. Look, I've talked about that with a few people. I think that it would be a good service if everybody, and this is what I'd put forward to people, in the migration from Slack, and we know the deficiencies of Slack and the problem that we'll be facing if we get much further with our conversations there, in terms of once we get to 10,000 people, 10,000 questions, which we're close to now, or apparently, then we're going to have a lot of, we're going to have trouble. They're going to not support us unless we start paying them, and I'm just not prepared to do that, and I don't think anyone else is. So with this, however, we can use, there's a free version and then there's a paid version. And from what I can understand and have tested so far, the free version does the job for us. So we don't have any restrictions on member numbers or conversation quantity or anything. If that changes in the future, we'll deal with it. But at this stage, it's there's no change. So there's none of that. So what I would put to people is, if you want your conversations to be protected and in here, well, you've got the same categories in the Facebook, in the Regrarians Workplace, as you do in the Rex Slack. So I would put it to you to go and find your own conversations and then cut and paste them over and just bang them in there, so that we can start to use this place as the archive for those. But it's obviously too big a job for one person. So I would put it to the individuals, if they want their conversations to be protected and continued in a superior platform, well, and take the opportunity to grab them and bring them over. It's really, it's just a cut. I'd just open up. I'd personally, if I was doing that, I would just I'll just get two windows going like so. Hopefully you've got a big enough screen to do so. And so if I was looking for all of my conversations, so I'll use yours, Blake, because you asked the question. What's going on here? Perhaps they don't like being beside each other because one knows that the other's about to be subsumed. It would not surprise me. I mean, Facebook is obviously plays this game pretty hard, and it wouldn't surprise me that with the rise of apps like Slack, that they just decided, we'll have a bit of a crack at that ourselves and divide and conquer. I'll just take over. Okay, here we go. So if I click on there from Blake Hudson, nice photo, Blake, good selfie, mate. Right, so here's all of the conversations that Blake's had in Slack. So what I can do is, so if you've got this one, I think this is possibly a way to go about it. So this is probably, all right, we'll pop this one in, oh shit, what happened there? We'll pop this one in soils. So we've got this conversation. No, won't do it. Anyway, let me see. Can I do this? No. Maybe I'll just go to that. I'll jump to conversation. That might be a better way. Okay, so that's better. So I'll just get that and go from here. Now that would be one that I'd have in the soil. So I'll go to soils. And what I do in here, we'll just trial this, is I'll pop that. Okay. So that may be possibly the only way that we can do this, is, and just paginate that a bit. I know that will be a bit tiresome, but again, if I don't know that there's really any other way that we can do that. Now, if you want, of course, what you can do is, now that Blake's in here, I can tag Blake, just like I know Collegia is in here. So with Collegia has been involved in this conversation, so I can just go to here and just put Collegia. No, she was in here. I did add her. So anyway, I can put Collegia and so on, or I can put Regrarians. So in this case, it's I'm not using Regrarians. It'll be at Darren, right, and so on. So we do that, and away you go. So that's about as good as I think we can get with migrating over. Otherwise, we'll leave that Slack open. So those of you who are doing the Rex currently, will leave that open. I think it would be a good thing though that if we'll leave it open but not contribute to it anymore. So it is a true archive, not something, and then just transfer the conversations over, right? So that you continue them in here in the workplace. All right. Now, what else have we got? Oh, notifications. That's what I wanted to look at, because a few people leave this page. So notifications, this is important to look at. Now, of course, if you want to add your photo and change your cover photo and all of that, the same sort of deal as you have in Facebook. Where are we more? Manage, how do I do that? Timeline settings. Here we go. Notifications. So just go back again. Go back to your profile. Click on timeline settings. Click on notify. So this is where you've got your various stuff. Yep. So your passwords there. Blah blah. You can change whatever you want, etc. Yes. Okay. Privacy. Change all of that. Yeah, stay on this page. Timeline and tagging. Yep, stay on this page. Language. There is the capacity within this to, as I understand it, to have multi-language conversations. So as many of you will have noticed using Facebook in the last year or so, they've they automatically translate your conversations and do a pretty good job of it, similar to what Google can now do in Chrome. They'll translate a whole web page for you, which is quite useful. So I think that's something to be aware of. I'll leave this stone page. So now with notifications, why is it doing that? All right, so leave this page. What I would look at there is this is important, relatively important, because otherwise if you don't do this, you're going to get an email every time someone sends you something. So similar with your mobile, you'll want to, so I think it's important to leave the notifications on your workplace, because when you're in here, you'll get your various notifications up the top here, which I'll talk about in a moment. So leave that on. But you can certainly edit that, whether you have a sound or blah, blah, blah. And then when you come to email, I think make sure that you click all notifications off, because otherwise you'll get an email every 5 minutes or more. So you might well just put, like I have, only notifications about your account, security and privacy. Yes, I'm going to miss out, but that's okay. It's only if that's the way you work. If you want to get your email box filled up, we'll go for it. And then you've got the other ones about any other stuff that you might like turn off, about comments added to your, that's just all nonsense. So ditto with your mobile. Depending on how much you get into this, we recommend that you upload the app, the Android or the iOS app to your smartphones. We've sort of subordinated Facebook now, such that we've sort of come to the point where Facebook, and this has been something we've been trying to look at for a while, or trying to manifest for a while. I stopped a while ago using my Facebook personal page or timeline as being a sort of a personal timeline to being a business timeline. I don't really go for all of that sort of stuff unless it's, even then my family get a bit upset because I don't even do happy birthdays on there anymore. But anyway, it's just all, I'd just rather ring them up or say good day. Anyway, so we just use that for that. And then our Regrarians page. So my daily post that I do or whatever, I do one on my personal page or timeline, because we have a number of people who look at that. And then we use our business Facebook page. And that's it. That's all we do. So we're just using Facebook as a sort of a promo, as almost a replacement for our web page, which for a lot of people, that's what's emerged. Web pages as such are, if Facebook could take over your web page, they probably would. But anyway, so that's what we're doing there. So as a result of that, in the way that we're using Workplace, is that Workplace is, you guys who are in this are the people that we really want to talk to and really want to communicate, because you've shown by virtue of all sorts of different outpourings or outputs that you support what we do. And so we want to be in the crowd that you're in, and we wanted to create a place where we could have that conversation and support each other in that. So not that the general public's not important or etc. from our perspective, and we'll engage with more and more people in that way. But once we start working with you, we want to start working with you, and so that's something that we weren't able to do as effectively in Facebook itself. So using this and having it on your phone and stuff is certainly a way that you'll be able to make the most out of the relationship that you have with us and our network in our workplace. Similar with text message, obviously you can do that as well, but you need to have your phone set up for that, which it will ask you to tag your phone and get that all going. Okay, all right, well, let's get out of there. Go back home. So the home page is the news feed, right? This one here will also take you to news feed. This one here will take you to you and anything you've got on there. Now, I imagine that most of you will probably not use this because that takes the place of the sort of personal timeline. My expectation is that most people will go to newsfeed and they'll go in groups, and that's where you'll spend most of your time. So when I look at what, so Blake's just added one here and he's added it to the group geography. So that's perfect, right? And that's the way that I think most people will discuss things here. If you have general workplace stuff, and I might go over to mine now because I've got, this is the sort of main home for me in here now. So when I look at, as you can see here, we've got some secret groups going on. This is in my my own timeline here. So I've got, because I'm a member of all of these groups, in fact, just about everyone, I've got all of those all listed over here. It doesn't necessarily put them all in exact order, but it's okay. You can just always click on here and it will take you to all of those groups that are your favorites, right? And so if you're a member of a lot, you've still got places that you can just a click away from navigating to. You can, right, yeah, so do that in that way. What you can do also is up here, you can take messages. Now, just like Messenger in Facebook, what I often will do is not be in here, but what I'll do is mark all as red. Actually, that is not red yet. I'll go down to here and see all in work chat. So, and so you've got all of those messages that you've had this morning, right? Will be there. Okay, so all of the messages, not this morning, that you've had over time. So Julie sent me a message. I think in the case of messages like this, that's okay. A lot of cases, if you've got a message that you want to send, and this applies to a lot of people across the board, I think that sometimes you can send messages that should actually go into a group because it's probable that what you have to say in your question, if it's not precious secret information that you don't want disclosed, then put it in a group because other people will learn from that. And we'd like to encourage that sort of collegial space if we can, where if you have questions, put them out in the open unless they're super sensitive or there's sensitive information you want to pass across, because then other people can learn and perhaps contribute to them. And as we've found in Slack, sometimes they'll be able to answer them before one of us can actually get to them, and they do a great job at doing so. So put your hand up for doing that if you can. The little bell here symbol you'll see is where you've got all of the notifications, or I'll mark all of those as red because I've seen those. Questions are about how to work the site, and then you've got your settings for, well, in my case, I've got a bit more privileges because I'm the owner of the site and whatnot, but that's basically it. All right, so I think we've got, yeah. All right, so hi, Darren. This is from Pear. Thank you. I'll just get back into here. All right, so hi, Darren. Thanks for the intro. Don't know if you've seen or done this, but the free version of Workplace doesn't allow external file systems, but the premium version does allow it. which you can get for not for being a not-for-profit yet. Not sure if that section of your business can apply, but it might be worth it. Yeah, definitely. We've had a bit of work with on that front, and that's probable that we will do that. The Google Drive integration, as far as we see it, is it's really, I don't see a lot of advantage in it. So, for example, the way we have it right now, I'll just give you an example of what I mean here, Per. My goodness, this is slow this morning. Give that another go. Morning, darling. Anyway, what you can do is, I'll just use Aljaz here, hopefully. So much for, I've got the fastest NBN connection available, and so much for that. Maybe I'm blaming the wrong, maybe not NBN, it might be my computer. It's not making any noises, but anyway. But what you can do there is glacially grab or share that folder, get the link to that particular folder or file, and then you can pop it straight in there, just as you would in normal Facebook. And it should, if the URL is editable, that's something you need to click on. Then it should just come straight up and it'll function exactly the same. Oh, goodness me, that is shocking. I wonder. Oh, here we go. No, it's not even playing the game. All right. Well, anyway, I think you get what I'm saying. If I get that link, pop it in there, and it must be the computer. Pop. Yeah, it's not even going to go back. Yeah, pop that link in there, and then you'll be able to see it as you would. Now, the other thing to consider is if I just go to groups again. So if I go to the soils group for a moment, so if I'm in here, I can just add that URL, just as Blake has done here with this YouTube link, and it will come straight up. So do that. That, I think, gets us around having to do the payment, because I'm really struggling to see what the value of the paid version is at this stage. It's if you've got the G Suite, for example, it integrates in with all of that. But again, I'm sort of yet to see the full benefit of that as at this stage. Now, the other thing you can do, as you can do in normal Facebook, is you can add files, and so this is where you can integrate in. Now, I don't know whether this is a feature that's just from in this premium version, because I've got the premium version as a trial, because you get a 90-day trial. So I don't know if that's the case, but whatever. It's not that difficult to upload a file from your computer if it's not on Dropbox or Google Drive. So yeah, that's the only big thing there as far as file sharing, Per, I think. Otherwise, is there something else I needed to show? I think we've gone through most of the bits. No other settings. No, I think I've covered most of it. But if anyone's got any questions, by all means. Otherwise, we'll wrap this up and have you. We'll post the recording up for those of people who are having a bit of trouble getting to sleep, and go from there. All right. So if there's no other questions, I'll just give a couple of moments to that, and I'll see if this works in the meantime. Goodness. Might just try this. Yeah, no, I think the computer needs a restart, because it's Yeah, look at it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, all right. So no other questions? Okay, thank you, Susan. Thanks for walking us through this, Darren. Good to have an orientation to get us on on the same page, so to speak. Yes, well, hopefully not the same computer, but yeah, it's. I think we'd all agree that whilst this isn't the perfect, I think, and we'll be looking for that for a long time. It'll maybe never happen, but it's not the perfect space, but it seems to me to be a lot more intuitive and to be will be a lot more easy for us to use and coordinate things. The big thing I don't like about this, if I could say, is that it doesn't allow you to have reminders, and that's something I like in Slack. I have the ability that, as we all do, especially when you're in my position or any of the Regrarians team, you're trying to get through a lot, and I can tag a conversation and say, like this one, say, I really want to read what Kevin's got to say here. I can't. I can't. I can save the post, whatever that means, right? So that's a save. That's one way you can play it, right? You can save the item, but it won't set up a reminder. So with Slack, for example, when I set up a reminder, so unsaved post. When I set up a reminder, it actually sends me a notification because it says, all right, well, you can remind me to answer this in 1 hour or tomorrow or 2 hours or whatever. It'll do that and it'll put it on my phone. I go, oh, yes, I've got to get back to Kevin. I haven't answered him. So it doesn't have that, and there's probably a few other bits and bobs, but they may well come. But that's something you might want to use in its place is just use that save conversation thing. And then in your chart over here, you go, okay, well, I've got this saved one, these saved conversations I need to get and deal with. So, yeah, so that's what we'll do there. Otherwise, that's about it. All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. That was short and sweet as we go, or relatively. And if you have any dramas, send us an email or a Facebook message. But otherwise, click on that. Click on the link to the Google sheet, which where you put in your information, your email and etc. And we'll sign you up and go from there. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and very good morning.